Hello, I'm Cara Stanford and this is the Marketing Spaces. Thank you for joining me today as we take time to look at how to succeed in your next marketing campaign. So how do you ensure success in your marketing campaigns? I'm sorry, there is no magic bullet, there is no million-dollar answer, there is no magic fairy dust. The answer is plan. So what do I mean by plan your next campaign? Let's have a look. First, a marketing campaign is short-term. It consists of an integrated communication plan using different media. So that means you take different marketing tools, different approaches to communicating with people, and you bring them together. And it meets very specific campaign objectives. Typically, you might run a marketing campaign to launch a new product or service. So you can see that's over a very specific period of time. Maybe you run a customer acquisition campaign. You need more new clients, so you're going to run a campaign for the next 2, 3, 4 months to get them. Or it could be you run a campaign for existing clients and trying to reach out to them, to engage them more. So the big thing is it's very specific. So I'd like to take a little bit of time and space to consider what your next marketing campaign is going to be about. What is the time frame roughly, and how will you know it's been successful? Once you've jotted that down, let's work through a framework that you might find useful. So there are 5 key steps for planning a successful marketing campaign: purpose, time frame, scope, channels, and key outputs. What do they mean? 1, purpose. What are the specific objectives of this campaign? So let's take a Christmas campaign. It might be the specific objective of our Christmas campaign are to reach out and engage further with our existing clients. We are going to do that in a certain way. We will know that it has been successful because so many of them will get back in touch with us. So many of them will do repeat business with us. So many of them will refer us. So many of them will recommend us. Who's the key target audience? It's our most loyal customers. It's the 100 people over the past year who've bought the most from us. It's the 10 people over the past year who've been our champions. Be really specific about what your objectives are. Time frame, when does it begin and end? I was recently talking to a friend who's going to launch a book, and he said, how long should I have my book launch for? It's like, well, when does it stop feeling like a launch is the question. So when it's something like a launch, when does it stop being new? Is it after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? The answer will vary from industry to industry. So you need to decide when it begins, when it ends. When we come to campaigns as well, you've got to think, is it a burst campaign? Is it a campaign tied into a seasonal event such as Easter, Wimbledon, tennis champions, Christmas, Ramadan? That's very specific. Those things happen at very specific timeframes. So any campaign that is based around those would be a burst campaign. Or is it an always on campaign? The type of campaigns that we see regularly popping up on our television in the advertising slots, on social media posts, where it's always there. They're always quietly maintaining visibility, maintaining client engagement throughout the whole life cycle. And the way you can tell the difference between a burst campaign or an always on campaign is with a burst campaign, the creative idea is very much fixed in a point of time. So, for example, you wouldn't see an always on campaign featuring polar bears and reindeer because that's clearly fixed to Christmas. Scope. So first of all, think about the marketing tool, communication tools and techniques that you could use. List them all. So it might be, right, for my target audience, I could use LinkedIn, I could use Facebook advertising, I could use Google AdWords, I could use YouTube, I could also use a poster on site, I could also use some TV spot advertising. List all of them. Don't let your mind be constrained at this point in time. Now we start to narrow them down a little bit, and you can say, right, are these in line with our company's vision, values, and brand positioning? For example, you might work for an accountancy firm or a charity, and it might be that your brand positioning, your brand tone of voice is serious. It's kind of, we've got quite a serious message to convey. We want people to take us seriously. So you might disregard TikTok. It might be that actually you work for a brand that likes to think of itself as quirky and a little bit fun and likes to do things a little bit different and surprise people. TikTok might be worth it for you. I have seen an accountancy firm use TikTok and it fitted brilliantly with their brand values and it was really well done. So start to look at all of these tools and think, Do they fit in with what we're trying to achieve and who we are as a business? And then start to think, are they relevant to the target customers for this campaign? Are people actually going to be there, the people that we wish to attract? So if it's loyal customers, do you need to do lots of awareness tools, such as social media posts, or can you do a few specific e-shops, or even, gosh, letters? Go old school. And now we narrow it down even more. And we say, actually, from the marketing channels that we have identified in the scope, which can we afford? This is a huge question. I've seen so many amazing marketing campaign plans that the company just can't afford. Or they can afford them, but they don't have the resources internally. They don't have anybody who knows how to actually run that campaign, how to set that piece of creative up, and they can't afford to bring in external people. Do you have the time to do it? How long is it going to take you to set these channels up, to create that media, to create that creative, and then to run it? I think sometimes it's easy to forget that once you launch a campaign, it needs to be monitored, it needs to be run. People need to be, our audience need to be engaged with. By the time you've worked through all this, you should have a really strong idea about which marketing tools and techniques you're going to use. Which brings us on to our last point. So we're almost at the end of planning our marketing campaign. What kind of things should we have to know that we've successfully planned? Well, we should have a campaign plan. We should know what the purpose of our campaign is. We should know what the time frame is. We should know who our audience are, what we're going to say, how we know it's going to have been successful. We should know the marketing tools and techniques we're going to use. On top of that, we'll have a resource plan. In that, we're going to know, we should have the budget we're going to need. We should have the skills that we're going to need and a time frame which comes into the schedule. And also with the schedule, that could very much be, right, on Monday, we are sending out eShop 1. On Tuesday, we are running advert 2 on LinkedIn. On Wednesday, we are running advert 1 on Facebook. That's what your schedule is. Your key outputs are the detail of what needs to be done, when and how. This is how you create a successful marketing campaign. Sometimes there is a tiny bit of fairy dust needed when it comes to an idea, but most of the time it's working your way through the plan. And by the time you've worked your way through all 5 of these stages, you will have the plan for a successful marketing campaign. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Cara Stanford, and this is the Marketing Spaces.